I'm going to dive right into it. Y'all know who I am, but for a little background, I do large scale installation work. I'm a social practice artist. My project is called the Caring Stones Project. I've been doing that for about 8 years now. But I used to be a gallery artist and I went on residencies when I was showing commercially. And now I'm doing this like more socially active, sort of activist project. And I've also gone on residencies for this work. As you can see, I've been like a whole bunch of different places. Um, I've done a few overseas. I've done France and Ireland. And if you have questions about international residencies, I have friends who've done a ton of them, so I can answer questions on that. For me, it's not terribly practical because my work is very large. Um, and then I'm a member of, oops, boop, the Royal Society of Sculptors in London and the Royal Society for Arts in London. And I used to be a member of the Sculptors Guild. I'm not anymore. And for those of you who come to meetings, I'm on the board of NCWCA, which is how I'm running this program. So that's a little about my background. So, okay, what is an artist residency? Like, I'm sure you have your ideas, but like, you know, sorry, what have I done? Okay. So everybody knows it's time and space, right? To go and like make your stuff and try new things. But it is also, and I think m kind of even more importantly, a curated community of artists and creatives. The people that you go on residency with, the people that you meet there, the work that they're doing is so much of the experience of being there. It's like you sit down at dinner and you go, turn to your right and go, well, what are you working on? And somebody just like blows your mind with this cool thing they're doing. And you turn to your left and like the same thing happens. Everybody who's there is doing something really interesting. Um, and so you get exposed to other disciplines, other cultures, obviously, if they have international people coming in, that's amazing, or people from different parts of the country, different backgrounds from yours. I meet more people of different ages from different places and really make friends with them at residencies than I ever can do in my normal day-to-day life. I find especially like age diversity, like, you kind of run in your own circles depending on like what generation you might be, but at residencies, you'll have friends who are like 25 and 85. And I think that's amazing. And then, of course, like career-wise, it's a career builder. It's a great CV boost. When you're trying to get to that next level of like getting shows, residencies are something they're going to look for. Um, and it's a great networking opportunity. Like a lot of the people who are at these are professors at universities, curators, artist curators, or they, even if they're just like an artist showing in galleries or museums, they know people. And when they get to know you and your work, then you can connect with them after. And people really do stay in touch. I've stayed in touch with like my roommate from Ragdale from like a million years ago. So what it is not, it's not a vacation. People will try to tell you like oh, I'm glad you're going on your adorable little retreat. It's like people really work when they're there. And like while nobody is looking over your shoulder to make sure you work at all, like they really are not. That is what people are there. Like people aren't just there screwing around. Um, and it's not art school, right? It's almost all residencies, with very few exceptions, are self-directed. There's this one in Florida that's like kind of like self-directed slash mentorship, but that's very rare. Most of them, it's like they give you a studio, they give you a place to sleep, they say go nuts. It is not an exhibition opportunity usually. There is often like artist talks that you can do. You can like voluntarily sign up to do an artist talk and share with people. Most residencies are visual artists and writers. Some have dancers, some have performance artists, but usually there's always visual and writers. And so a lot of times there'll be like a writer's night and then there'll be a visual artist night. And that's voluntary. You don't have to. But there usually will not be like an exhibition for you at the end of this. So, unless it's specifically stated, like there's exceptions to everything. So, okay. So, with all this in mind, how do you choose? Like there's a lot of residencies out there. Okay, so types and formats. Solo residencies, this is exactly what it says. You go, you're the only person there. Small group, I would say that's like anything from like 2 to 4 to 5 to maybe six, depending on what you personally feel is a small group versus a big group. There are places like Vermont Studio Center that host like 50 writers and artists at a time. And that's like the big art party, right? It's huge. Um, so you really have to think what your comfort level is. 'Cause, I know like I've been to Vermont Studio Center 3 times and like some people get there and they're kind of overwhelmed by it. And then I've talked to people who've done solo ones and or small group ones where they didn't like maybe mesh with the people. Um, and so it's just you got to think about your comfort level with, are you cool like if you're not vibing with a small group, are you cool like just being on your own? Anyway, urban versus rural. So access to groceries, medical care, phone, Wi-Fi, shipping. Do you need those things? How much do you need those things? Access to groceries, a lot of places will have like a weekly or biweekly run, where, somebody on staff will drive whoever needs to go to the grocery store. Most places, even in small towns, will have like a little market, and then you can like take the big run to the big box store if you have to. Phone and Wi-Fi. Like if Wi-Fi is central to your practice, you're really gonna want to make sure that they have Wi-Fi in studio because there's a lot of places in like the more rural sort of settings that are absolutely wonderful, but there's not Wi-Fi in the studio. You have to go to like the main house or, a designated spot. So if that's central to what you're doing, shipping as well. Yeah, most places you can get, order from Dick Blick and get it sent to you, but it might not be fast. So, things to consider. And that's going to be entirely based on your own practice. Residential versus key holder. So there's two kinds of residencies. I mean, not including like an online residency. So a residential one is what it says. You reside there. They give you a room and a studio to work in. Um, and then key holder is like a lot of times if you're doing one in a very urban area, New York, LA, Chicago, it is a key holder residency. You have to find your own accommodation and you have key holder access to the studios. It's the same like if you know Kala, if you have printmaker friends and they work at Kala in Berkeley, that's a key holder residency. So I have a friend who comes from New York and does that residency sometimes, and she has to find a place to stay. So when you're reading the descriptions, you just need to be real clear about, you know, does, does their offer include a room? Same thing with studios. You just want to make sure of what you're getting. I'm going to say a lot of places have private studios. You get your own studio. It's an empty room with a couple pieces of furniture, and you can do whatever you want. But some places do have group studios, shared or group studios. You might be in a big barn with just like dividers. So you just need to read carefully when you're deciding if this is a match for you. Discipline mix, we already kind of talked about this. Visual art and writing are like going to be pretty much at most of them. But then there are also performance art, culinary, which sounds amazing. I've never done one with a culinary artist, but you get to eat the spoils, which is wonderful, I'm sure. Dance, fine craft. Fine craft you find more like at the craft schools like Penland and what's that one in Maine? Haystack, places like that. If you're not familiar with that, you can just Google like craft schools or fine craft residencies. But that's like more like they give you a studio, but also a workshop. Um, and family friendly if you have kids. There are actually a lot of opportunities to take your kids with you, kids and or partner. So that's nice. And then meal setup. And this is something that as I've done more and more residencies, I've really come come to feel is one of the more important things. Like, do they feed you? Are you cooking for yourself? Most places will have communal dinners at least, sometimes lunch and dinner. Some places feed you every meal, which is lovely. Some are self-catering. You totally have to cook for yourself, shop for yourself. Um, some are like chef prepared, amazing, like whole spreads. So that comes, that comes, it takes a lot more time out of your work than you realize to go shop for yourself, cook for yourself while you're there for a limited time. So I fully feel like I want to be fed when I go because I really want to like not even think about feeding myself. I want to think about my work while I'm there. Other people feel differently, but that's definitely something you want to check out. All right. So I'm trying to move y'all over. Hold on. Boop. Okay. So more on how to choose. So free versus a fee. The free ones are very hard to get. I'm just gonna put it out there. Like the ones that give you a big stipend and are paying to get you there are for people who are further along in their career, which is not in any way to say don't apply for it. Just give a look to who they're awarding these, free and stipend offerings to. See if like you can compete at that level. Because it is like 35, 40, $45 a pop to apply, just like a show. Um, a lot of places will, most places that are reputable, this is not saying all, are nonprofits, and they will often offer you a payment schedule or a reduced fee. So, like when I went to VCCA, which is in Virginia, they were like, okay, so we would love if you paid this much, but our cost, like our actual cost to keep you here per day is this. So you're like, so this is the minimum that you can pay. And if you can pay more, like, it helps. It doesn't make any difference to you getting in. This all happens after you get accepted. Um, but you might want to look at like, okay, what will be my expected contribution? Having to pay does not make it a lesser program. Like VCCA, this one that I'm talking about, is like an extremely well-known, reputable place. You do just want to take a careful look at ones that are not nonprofits. And those will be like more like, if you would like to come for 6 days, it's this much a day. It's a little bit like more of a hotel, and you'll get a feel from the website that it's a little bit more like you're just renting the space. And you'll find that they are much, much more expensive than these nonprofit ones. And again, I'm not saying that a for-profit is always bad, just give it a careful look. Um, Time. People think, oh, I can never get away. Like, I could never get away like that. You can get away for a week or two. Like, a week is a thing that exists. I usually go for 2 because I have kids. Sometimes I go for 3 if my husband's feeling sprightly and ready. The kids are older now, though. So, like, I get away for 3. A month is very common. But there are ones that are like a year and you go and you like work at the residency. You're like the core fellow. So like every length is available. So don't think that you can't do it because you can't get away for a month. Like you definitely do not have to have a month. Um, Facilities. So if you have specific studio needs, you need to research those in advance before you apply. Things like darkroom printing press are going to be quite selective. Like if you're applying for those, there might only be 1 or 2 spots. Because obviously like facilities needs and they might only have one printing press. um I'm a sculptor, so I need outdoor access and like electricity outside and place to do my tools. That's absolutely something you can ask for. So yeah, you just want to make sure that if you have specific facilities needs, that they can accommodate you. They can always accommodate like just regular standard issue painting, drawing, what. But if you have anything specific to your practice, you're going to want to make sure ahead of time. Housing and studio space, right? Private or shared, we talked about that. Posh or rustic? So, do y'all know Marguerite? She's on the board. Um, if you don't already know her, you should meet her. She's lovely. She went to uh she's also a sculptor, but she wanted to be like pouring bronze, and they had all the tools and the equipment for doing that. And she got there and it was like super, super rustic, like, I'm living in a yurt kind of thing. She's like, all the younger kids were great with it. She used to be like that when she was young. It was fine. But she was very, like, she had kind of didn't know that it was going to be that rustic, like super outdoorsy. So cautionary tale. Like she was perfectly happy with it, but I don't think I would have if I'd showed up and been shown to my like yurt like tent. I don't know what I would have done. Um, so hi Brigatti. Good to see you.
Hi, good to see you. Sorry, I got
No,
the
no worries. I'm recording, so everybody's gonna get it in their inbox. Um, so emerging mid-career established, most places will say in their description in the website what they're looking for. If they specifically say that they take emerging artists, then yeah, believe them. But if they specifically say that they're looking for like mid-career or, established, and they don't mention emerging, then I would go read the CVs of the past residents and see like if it's a target program or if it's a reach. And there's no reason not to go for a reach if you can afford the fee to apply. But you'll want to just like, I don't know if you remember applying to college. Um, you want to focus on target programs. Like you want the majority of the things you're applying to be target programs. Do one or two reaches, right? So, I talk to a lot of people who are like, I've applied to 8 residencies and I haven't gotten anywhere, and I'm so frustrated and I don't even care anymore. And then I ask them where they've applied, and it's like all reaches. And I'm like, okay, so there is kind of a leveling up process in applying to these things. So if you have never been to a residency before, you've never been on residency anywhere, and then you apply to something that's like used to taking much more like advanced people, like people more advanced in their careers, that's going to be a hard fit for them because they don't know how you're going to be in that environment. Are you going to be a good neighbor? Are you going to be a good worker? So whenever I go on residencies, I'm the biggest nosy Nelly. I make friends with the staff and I ask them like everything I can ask them about their process, about how they figure out who to accept and decline, who they're looking for, what they're looking for. And one of the pieces of advice that I was given was it is their job when they're accepting. I mean, it's like, yeah, they want amazing art, right? But they have to make sure that everybody's going to be good neighbors because you're all there living, sometimes for a month, 2 months together at a time. So if they see that you have a track record of residencies and you keep getting accepted to like kind of like more and more selective programs, then they feel okay about like, oh, okay, this person has experience, that and so it's definitely not a hard and fast rule, but like I said, like try to aim for the majority of targets and shoot for the moon a couple times, absolutely. Special needs. If you have any special needs, they can accommodate almost anything you need. Even food wise, if you have allergies or you need a special diet, they can accommodate that. They ask it in the application materials. Most places are really great about that. Family residencies we talked about. Verify legitimacies. Okay, so ResArtis, you may have been on some of these websites before, but like ResArtis and the American, what is it called? It used to be called Alliance of Artist Communities, and I can never get that out of my head. It's not called that anymore, but I have it later in the slides. There are a couple websites that you can go to that are big aggregators of websites, and you can see if they are a member of one of these larger sites. And that's a good way to kind of vet them to see if they're a good opportunity. I'll talk a little bit more about finding them in a minute. Okay. So okay, so you've chosen a place you want to apply. So here are some tips for awesome applications. Okay, the components, right? They're always going to ask you for an artist statement, a proposal of what you're going to work on while you're there, work samples, it's usually about 8 to 10, your CV, and references sometimes. References are kind of falling by the wayside, but some places still do ask for them. So I keep a file of everything that I have ever written to any place, every residency, every grant, everything. And I keep it all in one place and I label it for reuse. So I'll say like, Yaddo application, work proposal, 2,500 words. And if you keep those all in one place and label them appropriately, you can go back and not have to recreate the wheel every time you do this. So, um, so it's like you're applying to the next thing and they need 3,000 words on the same, like what's your work proposal? You go, all right, I already have 2,500. I'll just expand from that. Um, and it's extremely important, like critical, to tailor your application to the residency focus. So read their website. Like I said, most of them are nonprofits. They'll have a mission statement. That is what gives you clues to what they're looking for. So they're looking for people to come that fulfill their nonprofit profit mission. So so read that stuff and like even like use their words over again in what you're writing. Images, quality images only. Like if it is a bad image of a great piece, leave it out. Like quality images only. Like I said, it'll probably most places ask for 8 to 10. Some might ask for five, but that's rare. You have to show a coherent series or style. They don't want to see that you can do every single thing. They don't know you, so you want to curate a selection of things that demonstrate that you're able to do what you're saying in your work proposal, right? So if you're saying, I'm going to do this giant mural, but here are these tiny pieces that I make. That doesn't really fit together. That doesn't really prove like, oh, I think that they are up to like the scale of the thing they've proposed. So just make sure you're showing them one body of work. If it's 10, like you could show two bodies of work, but just make sure that they go together in some coherent way. Like I said, just make sure it's curated. They don't know you. So, um, best images. This is another piece of advice that I got from people at residencies. Um, put your best images first, second, and last. You want a really good image last because that's the last thing that they see. And if the final round of jurying is up on a screen, it's the last image that's going to be sitting there while they talk about you. So the way it usually goes, these places are getting thousands of applications, right? Some of them. They put it in jurying software, and the first round is usually, not always, but a lot of the time, just images. They're not reading any of your stuff in the first round, and then you're either in or you're out, right? And if you make it to the second round, then they're looking at all of your stuff. But so it's just you really want those images to be tightly curated, really good ones, first, second, last, and everything looking crisp and professional. Now, about the writing part. So you've got your images, they're immaculate. Onto the writing. You have to, when you're writing your proposal of what you're going to do there, they want to know really specifically why you should be there, why you should be there as opposed to someplace else, why it needs to be now in this cycle, and why this project is a match for what they're looking for. So, for example, when I apply to things, I usually say, like, if it's like, I have a show coming up and I have to build this big sculpture and I really need this, to like get out and, you know, be at a residency so I can do it. Like I'm on a specific timeline. Um, why there? If you're a painter and you're particularly inspired by that landscape, like you'll want to tell them that. Like it's really specific to this series that I'm doing right now, that I'm working on right now. But I want to do these five more pieces, and your place is exactly what I'm looking for. Um, so just be extremely specific. Um, Team player. Okay, so like I was saying, they want to know you're going to be a good neighbor. One way you can show them this is like letting them know what you're going to give back to the group. Um, and that can be something concrete, like, oh, I really want to like teach a little class one day to like show people my technique if they're interested, or I'd like to do something in the community related to my work. Sometimes people who do social practice work will invite people from the town to come take part in whatever participatory thing they're doing. But it could also be kind of vaguer, like, just indicating that you're really excited to share your work with the other people there. Um, because every single application that everybody writes is like, I want time and space. I want this. So it really sets you apart if you remember to go, and what I want to give is this. Um, Dream big. So residencies don't force you to do anything. They certainly do not force you to do the work that you said in your proposal. Now, of course, you want to be an honest person and you want to say what you think you're going to do, right? I'm not going to tell you to like straight up lie. That would be awful. But don't hesitate to aim big. If you only get part of that project done, you start on that project, it's like nobody's looking over your shoulder to make sure you finish this whole giant thing, right? So, like, really, when you're writing your proposal, write something ambitious. And take your show on the road. Okay. So, what's on site? You did your homework before applying, right? Because we knew that you need to look up all these things. So, you know which materials are going to be there, and you're going to know which materials you need to provide. So, how do you get them there? You can bring your stuff, obviously, or you can ship ahead. Every residency I've ever been to lets you ship ahead. So if there are things that are no fly items that can be mailed, do that. You can also order, like if you're buying big canvases or something that would just be prohibitive to either bring or ship, just ship it from the art store directly to the residency. You'll be responsible for shipping it back home. Excuse me. But at least you save yourself the money one way. People are forever, residents are forever like receiving things that, they didn't know they needed. No fly items if you use anything, especially, like some paints, aerosol cans for sure. Things that are flammable that you can't fly with. Um, that happens to everybody. So every residency has a cabinet somewhere of things that people had to leave behind. They had like bought it there and they'd used half the spray can. So if you have needs like that, like pastel fixative, you'll find like 14 cans of it there. But you'll also find like big rolls of paper that people couldn't take home, like all kinds of stuff, like weird, awesome stuff. So, if you have no fly items, I might recommend getting there, seeing if they already have it for you, and then buying it if you need it, because then you're just gonna end up leaving it for somebody else. Um, so if you do large scale work or whatever the work that you do isn't like really portable for whatever reason, um, I've worked with lots, and I've worked on stuff that was not sculpture myself, like sketches, writing, small studies, research, works on paper. I knew an installation sculptor who was in France with me, and she just did installations, like installation sketches out of huge pieces of paper that she would like charcoal and stick up. And then she went home and made it out of the material that she actually uses. So even if you feel like, oh, my work's not super portable, you can definitely use the time. So don't let that be a hindrance. And this is just obvious advice, but anticipate cultural, language, weather differences, like anytime that you would travel, just look into all that before you get there. Okay, while you're there, you're going to want to pace yourself. Some residencies are very quiet, everybody's pretty chill. Others are super duper social. There's like a party every night. But every single place that I've ever been, everybody completely respects when you're like, hey, I got more work to do. And there's always people who are like, oh, party's fun, but I gotta go back. And if you're at a really quiet one, there's always like, you can always get somebody to hang out. But just pace yourself. Make friends, obviously. Like I said at the very start, one of the best things, one of the most important things about being on residency is the people you meet and the connections you make and the things you learn about their practices. So good ways of doing that, like suggest critiques. Like you meet somebody at lunch and be like, hey, that sounds really interesting. Like, do you want to come to my studio and check it out? And then like I'll go to yours. People do that all the time. It's super casual. Like you don't need to be besties with them. People do it all the time. Yeah, I'll come by and check out your work. Um, I know people who have done collaborations with people that they've met there, that they've been like mutually inspired by the work and been like, hey, do you want to do a work together? So that's absolutely something you can do. Um, and the very best way is bring a bottle of wine to dinner if you were a drinker. Um, or I knew a guy who would bring a six pack to dinner, and that was very classy. But people will bring a bottle of wine or something to share, candies for dessert. Plunk them down on the table, be like, this is for everyone. And somebody will go, oh, grab glasses, whatever. And it makes everybody very friendly very fast. It's a really great way to get to meet people. Explore the local community. Oh yeah. So this is great. So you're not just meeting the people you're on residency with, you're meeting the people who work there, who live there all the time. And they almost always love to show people around the town, tell you what's good, tell you where to go, which restaurant's good, go to the beach here, or you can take this hike. Like that's why they work in a residency. Like they want to know you. And so they will be your guides around town. It is really great to connect with them. So you don't want to miss out. If y'all see down in the left-hand corner, see the people in the white coats? Yeah, that's me in the front. And in the back is my friend Jeannie and the local stone carving master of Auvillard, France, who we made pals with. And he taught us all in French how to carve stones. And this is us in the town square carving stones, which we then got invited to like the market, the farmers market party. It was somebody's birthday, and then we all had lunch. Like if you just start going out to the town and meeting people, everybody's thrilled to meet an artist. So, happy accidents and random adventures. It is very important to document your work. I know it's nobody's favorite thing. Document keep your notes, keep your sketches, take pictures of yourself, have your studio mates take pictures. Documenting your process because it's really good for future applications. So if you can get those like in process shots, it's also great for the Instagram. You got to keep up with your socials if you do it. So don't forget to document. And then finally, one cute thing is sign the door. You'll see it a lot of residencies, everyone I've ever been to actually, like on the door frame of the studio, you'll see people from like 20, 30 years ago all the way to today who've signed the door and said the date that they were there. And sometimes, my friend, uh, my friend Simona was like, dude, I'm in your studio at BCCA. And I was like, that's crazy. It's a really good studio. The window sticks. Like it's just a fun little tradition. Um, the website. Like I said, I'm gonna send this to you, but if you also want to just screenshot it, you'll have it. So Res Artis is it's the best one for worldwide international residencies. It's fine and good for United States residencies, but I think that it does a better job for international. And then Artist Community Alliance, which is the thing I was trying to remember before, is I think the best one for United States residencies. They all have really good filtering tools. So you can say, like, I can only go for a week, I can only go for 2 weeks, or whatever. I want to bring my dog and I need, a dark room, whatever. Like you can filter for anything and it'll give you a list. Trans artists is not for trans people specifically. Um, it's a good one. NYFA, if you don't know New York Foundation for the Arts, I mean, they have residency listings, but they have everything listings. If you're not going there, like anything you're looking for, NYFA will have it. And then Creative Capital, which is a grant that you may have seen going around. They have a really good residencies list that they publish, I think, quarterly or something. But really, like the two that I use are Res Artis and ACA. All right, so here's a list. This is again, I'm going to send it to you, but if you want to screenshot it, you'll have this list of emerging artist residencies that you might consider if this is your first, or even your second time, which is not to say there won't be people who are like vastly experienced at these, but just that these are ones that I know by their mission statement, they definitely are looking for emerging artists, people having their first residencies. So I can speak directly to some of them. Vermont Studio Center is awesome. It's that one I was saying is really big. The thing I love about Vermont Studio Center, besides that the studios are awesome, is that they have a full shop. So they have welding, they have woodworking, like all the big saws. Like that's a really rare thing to find in a residency. So if you're looking for that, which like to me, that was just like, oh my God, it's everything. That is one of the few places I know that you can do that. Penland School, like I was saying, that's one of those that's more of a craft school. In the summertime, they like teach craft classes. Like you can learn to do metalwork or make shoes or like they just teach classes. But in the winter, they have an actual residency where you go, you have access to whatever studio you're qualified to be in. So I was doing metalwork, so I was in the metal workshop. I was not qualified for the print shop, but I could have been if I needed to be. Um, so that's a really interesting one. If you just want to like hunker down and like work in like a production sort of mode. Women's Studio Workshop, I've not been, but people say good things. Cha North, elsewhere, again, good things. Those are all fantastic. Studios at Mass MoCA, I've been. Um, it is good for writers. It is good for people working small scale. I would not say it is good for people who need outdoor access, open windows, like you're going to be making a big mess with power tools. It's not that kind of studios. What it does have, like I just had to like improvise for when I was there. But what they do have is unlimited access to Mass MoCA. They give you a badge that says like resident, and you can go in anything. You can like go wherever you want in the museum. You can pop in for a minute. You can go like behind the scenes. Like that to me was phenomenal and really different than any residency I've done. Blue Mountain Center, Haystack is another one that is like Penland. It's a craft school. Monson Arts, I've heard nice things. Anderson, Sitka. Well, I've not been, but I've heard good things. So that this is by no means an exhaustive list, but a place to start. Is that the end? All right, that's the end. I'm gonna unshare in just a minute when my screen comes back. Slowly but surely. There we are. Hi. Um, yeah, so like I said, it's a lot of information, kind of like drinking from the fire hose, but I like to get all the facts in and then leave it up for questions.
I'll just jump in with a suggestion. I've done a lot of residencies
Yeah.
in the country and internationally. Get a credit card that allows you to check luggage without a
Yeah.
fee. And then you can pack a lot of supplies in a big suitcase and check it.
Nice.
That works pretty well for partly getting your stuff there.
Yeah. That's an awesome idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. I usually put the crazy heavy stuff in the carry-on. You got like up to your 50 pounds, or if you get a deal, you get your 70 pounds.
You have to balance it. And then
Yeah.
you have to put your sharp things, you have to check
Yeah,
on all
exactly. And
those
like I
things.
sit there and I
But
go, okay, sharp things here, heavy things here, and yeah.
and I'm a big fan of women's studio workshop. So
Great. I was going to ask you, where have you been that you would recommend?
well, I've been to Vermont Studio Center. I've been to well, I'm a printmaker. I've gone mostly to printmaking ones, but when I went to Vermont Studio, I went for printmaking but made sculpture. So,
So
that's what I like about a residency is you walk in and you have an empty space and you get inspired. I've been to Basel, Switzerland, printmaking. They're all
nice.
printmaking. Oh, one I went to in Spain, called Cianoja, and we were put up in this old mansion. That was, you never know what you're going to quite get, no matter what they tell
Never
you,
know what you're gonna get.
unless you get to like you've been to Yaddo and stuff like that. I'm sure that's pretty sad and Penland and certain ones, but other ones you get a lot of surprises internationally, particularly.
Yeah, I mean, I would say there was still surprises at Yaddo. I mean, it was, yeah, there are bats in the big house. Like you never, and it's right next to the Saratoga racetrack. So we went to see
Mm.
horse racing. Like wherever you go, there's gonna be random adventure for you.
I've looked at a few residencies in Mexico, and
Mhm.
what I found interesting is that they usually have an exhibition of the work you've done. No matter what you've done, you show something. There were some things that were uh, they needed work, and there were things that were really well worked out in a short period of time. So that was impressive. Um, And that was at both, and they usually have a party, a farewell party, which I thought was a nice way to, round up the experience. Um, I'm mostly interested in Latin American countries because my project is related to that. So I'm hoping I can get something squared away. I can't do it this year because this project is quite time consuming. But next year, I'm looking to do that. And
That's
I think
awesome.
that'll be fun. But it's mostly in Latin American countries. And what I've seen is you're expected to pay to get there and to stay there so far. And I don't know. I like working alone. I like working in my own place. I've got everything here. I know where it is. And I've gone on plein air. I've organized plein air excursions, and I found that I had to take pretty much everything, especially when it came to oils. I found that on the airlines, you needed to have, they didn't, if they saw, well, one person had told me beforehand, before I packed up my stuff, she says, make sure that everything that you're bringing, all the tubes are brand new, because if they see these funky little tubes,
Mhm.
they're going to question it. So with oil painting, make sure you take that. And also, I found that the prices would be more expensive abroad. So I found that it was better to just pack it all. So I managed to pack a planner box and just the essential oils I needed in my brushes. And the other thing, if you're planner painting or planning to paint, I found that uh, taking one board, whatever size is comfortable for your luggage, and then sizing your paper, gesso prepare, priming it and everything, was a lot better than packing canvases and then having to worry about the bulk and the drawing. And I know that Blake at the time when I went, they had these really great little plastic carriers that you could slip in door skin panels and keep them from pressing one another and ruining your work. So um, if you have any questions, if anybody has any questions about plein air painting abroad or residencies, I'd be happy to provide info on that.
Thank you, Maggie. Thanks for
Sure.
all that. Hi, Catherine.
Apologies. I
No
just,
worries. It's recorded. You'll get it in your inbox.
I woke up and was like, ah!
Oh,
All
it's
right. Thank you.
okay.
Thank
But
you. All
welcome.
right.
You made it for the Q&A. Other questions, suggestions, personal experiences?
I do have a question. Like one thing, so I guess you could think of, well, first of all, thank you. That was very, very helpful. But one thing I've always like struggled with is I guess you could like frame it as like an investment for sure, but like when residencies don't offer like a stipend or like covering travel costs or whatever, I like have trouble like negotiating um like leaving and then like taking time off of work and then like like how am I gonna pay my rent that month? You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like, so
absolutely.
like that's like that's been my biggest struggle, I think, because as you mentioned, like the ones that do offer stipends are generally like more competitive, but they seem to be the ones that are like most feasible, at least for me, or like how I'm trying to like work out how to do them. So I was curious, like if anyone has any like tips for that.
Well, like I said, you're going to want to look for the nonprofits that have a sliding scale. Like I know, let's see. Like I said, VCCA definitely has a sliding scale. Um, Mass MoCA had a sliding scale. Um, yeah, you just have to kind of look into them and see what it'll usually say in the application. Like I said, is like, the cost of keeping you here every day is this much, but you can pay as little as this much. And go ahead and say the smallest amount. That is absolutely fine and expected. Because
There's also grants that you can
yeah, there
apply
are
for.
grants but like grants to go on residency. I don't know. I'd have to look.
I've seen
Have
that.
you?
Yeah. In
Yeah,
fact, I
so
just saw one today. Uh, it was to apply for a grant that would help you with your studio costs, your
Mhm.
supplies, documentation, creating websites, stuff like that. And I've seen lists where they included artist residencies.
Right.
So there again, you have to write about what you're planning to do and allocate funds and time
Yeah.
schedules and stuff like that.
And
But
those ones might actually require you to show evidence of the work. I've
yeah,
gotten grants before that said like, and we're going to check in with you in
and so
6 months and a
feeding two
year, and we're
birds.
going to need to see evidence of like that you did the thing you said. So
Yeah,
those might, but the residency will never ask you
yeah.
for any kind of proof.
But
So
what's
yeah,
really nice is that you're feeding two birds with one scone, right? You're doing the artist residency and you got a grant.
yep,
So those look
I
good on you.
know. So those both go on your CV, and yay.
You
Um,
can also contact the residency and ask if they have any work study. Sometimes
mhm,
it's not listed, but you can work in exchange for some of the payments.
Right, yeah.
yep.
Yeah, that's
And
good. I think Penland has that. Sorry, I was just like
Penland
that's a
has that. Yeah, I would imagine they do. Um, Vermont Studio Center used to have that. Um, I don't know if they have it anymore. I haven't been in a long time, but yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, and travel costs. There are a lot that are within driving distance. And, a large part of the expense of the travel is if you have to fly. So, definitely consider looking at ones that are more local.
Well, we did one with national NCWCA
Hmm.
where we went to Ghost Ranch, and that
Yeah.
was a great experience. So that was, and of course we paid for it and everything, but just to have that residence experience was pretty sweet. So I don't know if NCWCA is planning to do anything like that. It would be quite nice.
Yeah, it would be nice. I don't think we have anything coming down the line. There was like one particular person who really wanted to do it and like be in charge of it. So that was
Yeah.
awesome, but I don't think we
Yeah, it's a
currently,
lot of work.
it's a
It's a
lot
lot
of
of
work.
work just to
Any other
prepare.
questions about any part of residencies?
No, I'm just
Sorry.
going to go back to
Yes.
my hack about if you get yourself a credit card and buy all your groceries and all your art supplies on it, you start to accrue miles. That's how I started to be able to do residencies. So not only the free check the bag, but also using a credit card as a way to travel.
Good tax deductions
Mhm.
too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Samurai, you had a question?
Yes, you mentioned that sometimes families are were allowed or kids are allowed to come with the artist. How common is
It's more common
art
than you,
as
yeah, it's more common
Mhm,
than you'd think, especially what they call them family residencies. And like I said, you can go in Res Artis or ACA and filter for, I want to bring my kid, I want to bring my partner, whatever.
mhm,
Um, and there are a surprising number, and I would say the number is growing. Because I always wanted to do it with my kids, so I really like researched them, and I found a bunch.
mhm,
Now my kids are older, and they just want to go to college. But back in the day, I was like, oh, it would be amazing. So yeah, just you can just go in those sites and filter for it.
I see. Okay, thank
And
you.
then I will say that like, you're gonna wanna in your statement, your project, you're gonna wanna talk about how bringing family members along informs the project that you're going to be working. Like you always want to specifically bring it back to like, okay, why, specifically why you, why there, why my kid? Like how is that gonna, it's like it'll read better than it's like I just need to put my kid somewhere, which we know is true, but always true.
It's reality.
Yeah, that's reality. But, if you can somehow work it into like part of your project plan, like the specificity of why that's great, that would go a long way.
Okay, sounds good.
They're
Yeah.
out there. Go get one.
Yeah, you made me want this.
Yeah, you
I
should
was
want
very
this. It's
suspicious
possible. It's so
before that,
doable.
no, never. Oh, I can't do that. But you made it, for me, you made it possible, a
It is
possible
entirely possible.
perspective.
Good.
Yeah,
Ha, you're
thank
glad
you.
you showed up.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Mm.
It's 9:58 and I want to be mindful of your time.
I
So
have
one
a
or two more
question.
questions if we have them.
Hi,
Morgan, yeah.
hi. My
Oh,
camera's not working. I'm sorry.
yes.
So I have a question. So is there a place we can, I've written grants and how we all apply, and I've got a lot of rejections. So is there a place we can, share with someone with more experience a grant proposal and understand, like, yeah, this is on the right track.
Hmm.
What this will work, this will not work, because these rejections are so hard,
Yeah.
and then you gather yourself again and you obviously apply. But so I'm just wondering if there is a place one can bounce off ideas or discuss, like, hey, I have this idea, this is my proposal, what do you think? Um,
Hmm. Well, okay, so your first stop for that is going to be your mentor,
yeah,
obviously. That's what we're
yeah,
doing. And if your mentor, like gives you great feedback and you just want more, or,
yeah.
another set of eyes on it, I'm your next stop. Get in
Okay.
touch with me, but like go to your mentor first. Y'all
Hmm.
work out the bugs,
For
send
sure.
it to me. I do a lot of grant application reviews,
Great.
and also like solo show proposal reviews, and the people actually get them.
I'm sure.
Yay! And artist residency kind of thing. So anything like that, go to your mentor first. And if you want another set of eyes, come to me. And then if
Okay.
we still need more eyes, like we can network and find somebody in our arts community.
Okay.
That's what this is all about.
Okay.
At what point did you come into the slideshow?
So yeah, I came. I'm sorry, I got late, but I came around 6:30, which is when you were talking about once you reach a residency,
Okay.
how it's going to be over there. That's where I picked up.
Okay, so one point that I just want to quickly cover again that I believe you missed was if you're getting a bunch of rejections, um, all in a row, yeah, that's like super disheartening. We do not want that for you. It does not need to be that way.
Right.
So you definitely want to look at your application, make sure that it's firing on all cylinders, but also like we should review what you're applying to and make sure that it's appropriate for the stage of practice that you're in. Because like I was mentoring somebody a few years ago who was like, I've applied to so many residencies. Y'all already heard this. I'm just gonna repeat myself.
Yeah.
I've applied to so many residencies. I haven't got any of them. Like I applied to like eight. I spent all this money and they were all no. And I said, well, where'd you apply? And they were all these like super duper like exclusive selective places. And she didn't know, she's like, I don't know, they just look nice. And,
Yeah.
so yeah, we should probably do a little review of what you're applying to.
Sure.
If you're not sure what stage of artist they're looking for, you can look at who they've awarded in the past,
Hmm.
check their CVs, see if like they're kind of at the same level as you.
Yeah.
If they specifically say they're looking for emerging artists, like that's your best clue.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Um, okay, Pragati, you were next.
Thank you. So, my question was about the ownership of the work that you produced during the residency.
Mhm.
So, does that belong to you, or does the residency take it? Because I'm trying to figure out what is there in it for the residencies to get for themselves out of
Right. So
this.
the work totally belongs to you. There are some residencies that say, like, as part of your payment, you give them one small piece.
Okay.
Um, but I think that's a less common scenario. I've never been at a residency that did that, but I have seen some that do. And so you would just, think carefully about that. But then also the price is going to be lower accordingly, or maybe free, but you give them a piece. So that, for the people who are thinking about money, like that, finding one of those might be a good solution. But yes, everything belongs to you. They won't even like know what you're doing in your studio unless you show them. And what was the other part of your question? What's in it for them?
The commercial aspect.
Yeah.
What do the residencies
What
get
is
out of it?
in it for them
Yeah.
is bye, Beth. Thanks for coming. Good to see you. What's in it for them is most of them are nonprofits. So they have a mission, like they're fulfilling their 501(c)(3) mission of providing services to artists. And that's really what the like it's what the people are there for. It's what makes them happy, it's what they want to do, and they're receiving grants from, higher up sources, right? Like they're receiving like the Warhol grant of like $50,000 to provide to trickle down to those of us who attend. So yeah, so what's in it for them is really just they want to be doing it.
And that's interesting because I always thought that residencies are going to be super hard and very, labor intensive. But this sounds like it's a fun vacation where you also create work.
It is both. I don't know at what point you came in, but I was saying that
I gotta go.
um,
I
it's
gotta go.
not a
I'll see you
vacation.
guys. Oh,
Uh,
I'm sorry. I've got to
Yeah,
go.
it's not a vacation, but aspects of it are absolutely like, you're traveling to a place that you want to be because you want to
Yeah.
be there. There's nobody looking over your shoulder. There's nobody forcing you to be in your studio certain hours. Um, it's all like people do work really hard when they're there because that's why you've taken the time off. That's why you're
Yeah.
there. But people also have parties and enjoy dinner and go out in the town and see things. Nobody's cracking the whip on you like work harder and faster. It's absolutely like the opposite of that.
Okay.
They're
Well,
like, have mental health and good food.
yeah.
Like really, really.
I have one last question.
Yeah, Hargan.
Sorry, I was seeing the Vermont residency. So it says you can also apply with a partner.
Mhm.
So when you apply for the partner, does your project also have to show that you're going to work together, or you can just apply with a friend and then go your own space, go
Right.
your
So
own way?
Right. So you gotta look a little bit more into it. I don't know what Vermont does. So like there's places that let you apply with your partner and they just like stay in the room with you and do whatever they're doing. There are
Okay.
places that you apply like partner a different meaning, like an artistic partner,
Yeah.
and you apply together to do a project together.
Okay.
But yeah, it's like you would not apply as like artistic partners and then just do whatever you want.
Okay. So you have to work together if you apply as an artistic partner, right?
Yeah. Well, again, like nobody's going to be standing behind you watching.
Yes. Yeah.
But you are
Sure.
in your project proposal going to say, my artistic partner and I have this collaboration and we're going to be working on this collaboration.
Got it.
So, you know,
Yeah. Thank you.
nobody's going to make you, but
Yeah.
we want to be honest. We want to be honest people about what
Sure.
we're planning.
Absolutely.
All
Thank you
right.
so much. This was very helpful.
It has been my pleasure. Any last,
Thank you so much.
we're a few minutes over. I want to let you go if you need to, but if there's any last questions, hit me up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Alrighty.
for